Hi, CMattDye here, and today I wanted to do a little bit of a chalkboard video, talk about CNFTs, talk about flipping CNFTs, how to find good projects, how I find good projects, and how I'm able to get into really good projects that can become blue chip quality versus jumping into actual blue chips versus jumping out of projects, and how to flip projects. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. I've heard a few people talk about CNFTs and discuss the similarities to the centralized markets and talk about their advantages and disadvantages. And really, from my perspective, and I've been trading centralized markets for 25 years so far, and there's really no difference. So it starts out, you have a basing phase where there is accumulation. So with CNFTs, maybe it mints up here, drops a little bit from paper hands, and it bases a little bit. And maybe this is 10 ADA, maybe this is 20 ADA, maybe this is 50 ADA. For example, Filthy Rich Horses minted at 80, went all the way down to 30 something. Now it's back up a little bit. Other projects might mint and move up and then base above mint price. But a lot of projects do this. They mint and then they move down, paper hands sell them, and then it starts to move. So I'm going to put an M here for mint, and I'm going to put an M here for mint. So these are your basically two examples. And I've never seen it mint and just take off and run hundreds and thousands of ADA. It could happen, but I've never been a part of something like that. So now that we know how it can start, let's talk about a couple of things. So there's basically, you have your basing phase, right? I'm going to put a B for your basing pattern or accumulation. Then you have a move upward, which can be your uptrend. You can call it the liftoff period, whatever you want to call it. But the initial period is this. And whenever you see something like that happen, usually you're going to be on OpenCNFT. I meant to be on this page. And you're going to see your largest gainers over the last 24 hours. You're going to see what's been trending for the last 24 hours. Recently added, no one cares about. You want to see the biggest gainers, what's been trending. You can look down here and see, okay, well, what has this done in the last 24 hours versus all time of the project's life cycle. So you can look at those different things. Well, once you get that, usually once you get to the largest gainers, you've already passed the basing phase. You're either towards the end or the middle of this up move. So what happens after this up move? Well, after this up move, a couple different things can happen. And then there's a third phase also that I'm going to talk about. So basing phase will happen after this moves up. You get another phase, which could be the basing phase, or it could be the other phase that I haven't spoken about yet. So you have basing phase, you have an uptrend, and then you have another basing phase, which usually comes down and then chops a little bit, and then has another up move. The other scenario is that it just comes below wherever this started, and then maybe bases again. And I do have an example of that as well. And we do want to be prepared for what can happen. So whenever we see this basing and we start to see this move up, we want to look at the project and say, okay, what catalysts are actually happening? Is something moving this price, or are people just jumping in and maybe flip it afterwards? With anything, usually you do get this basing, this move up, and then you get either sideways basing like this, or you get basing that comes down, has a little pullback, and then whatever happens, you get this move up. So that's something to look at. And usually you either have basing accumulation, and then eventually you have the overall market being hit hard. And then you have basing that tries to move up and then it just drops a little bit and then it bases a little lower. So this takes out a lot of those basing levels. And that's usually the entire market's having issues. And that you can see in a different area than just CNFTs. CNFTs are going to move with the market, but they're also going to move by themselves. So if we look at this, what's happening right now? So Retro Aliens has been trending the last 24 hours. It's a project that I've been in. I'm going to do a little comparison with Clay Nation, just because I'm in Clay Nation as well. And I'm going to talk about the Ape Society also. And then we're going to talk about Fun Plastics, because that is the other scenario where we saw the basing, the move up, and then a move that goes below the basing of previous. So let's jump into Clay Nation first. So Clay Nation minted over here. This was 2021 area. It is 2022 now. So it bounced up immediately and then it came back down. That would have been a good place to accumulate some. But then it based for a very, very long time. And then when it came down here, it's still basing. I bought right in this area here. I think it was more luck than anything, because buying at 1500 or 1200, I didn't get at 1100. 1230 was actually my buy-in, the lowest one that I bought. And then you saw this move up. Okay, well, this move up happened. Why? Because they have a collab with Snoop Dogg and his son CMattDye. Well, that's huge news, and it's going to be big, and they want this to be a long-term project that they're in. CMattDye has said he wants it to be a long-term project. Snoop has said that he wants to have a project to do with his son, and like a business they can do together, and that appeals to both of them. So I think this move, it's going to come down, it's going to base a little bit, and it's going to take off again. From my opinion, that's what I'm thinking, my thoughts. Well, if we look at Retro Aliens, what happened? It didn't really mint this high. I think this was just the first person that listed it, and then it kind of just drops. So listing something is different than buying something. Where it buys at is different than where it lists. So I could buy a clay and list it for 100,000. That doesn't mean that someone's going to buy it for that, right? Same here. I can buy a Retro Alien and list it right away at 56. Doesn't mean someone's going to buy it. It was just the first one that was listed after mint. So I don't really count that well. But anyway, this is all the basing. And now it's starting to move higher. Well, now we have to decide, is it moving on something, or is it going to come back down and continue basing? Well, I think this is going to go up a little bit, and the basing level is going to just be a little bit higher. I don't think it's going to be like Clay Nation and just take off, but I do think it's going to go up a little bit and then base some more. And that's what speculation is all about. You have to figure out what is going up, what's not. But this project I am in. I own 40 of them. I'm very bullish, and I like the roadmap. I like the devs. I talk to them every day. So maybe I'm a little biased in this, but I just want to show some examples. I'm not saying go out and buy what I'm talking about. The Ape Society, for some reason, OpenCNFT is not really working very well, because it should show something like this to start and then a pullback. And that's when you get in, when it moves up, because this was hitting this stuff over here. Ape Society was showing up over here. At that time it was called Ada Apes, but it was showing up over here. And I pulled up JPEG Store. Luckily JPEG Store shows a lot of data, even though OpenCNFT is kind of messing up here. Usually OpenCNFT is pretty good, so I'm not knocking them, but in this particular instance, it's not helpful to me. So it minted over here. I think it minted at 100. I want to say I wasn't actually in the mint. I didn't discover them until over here, actually, over here in this region. So I saw them move up. I saw this move over here initially. I saw this move over here. Actually, over here is what I meant to say. I saw this move here and this move here, but I knew that this move had happened. So I knew that this had happened, that they minted and just took off. And then they came back down and they started to base a little bit. And the base doesn't, it's not like a stock chart where it goes up and it comes down and then it just very quickly goes higher. It usually the bases take a little bit longer, or the accumulation phases, the basing phases, whatever you want to call them is fine. Terms are interchangeable. Make up your own. I'm not a big stickler of sticking to certain terms. I've never cared. But anyway, it started to chop around, started looking good, and then it started to move up and chop around a little bit, came up to 500. Well, when it came back down, it was actually trying to stay above 600. So I actually got in. Actually, I got in. I was buying in over here actually, but then the two craftsmen that I had, I bought right in here. So I paid $375 for one and $400 for another. And at the time, I thought it was a lot of money. But you have to go with your gut. You have to go with what you see. And I was going with what I felt, how I was seeing the community develop. Because in this time, I'm in their Discord. I'm talking to the community members. I already had a couple apes that I had gotten over here. And now I'm talking to them. And that's why I decided to buy a couple craftsmen, because I own a couple other classes, and I knew the craftsmen were going to be important, or I felt that they were going to be. And then you had a little bit more chop, and then you had it start to take off a little bit, and now it's actually moving up pretty well, and that's what that's about. Now on the flip side, let's go to Fun Plastics. So Fun Plastics minted over here and started to move up. They were the Benjamin Group. They were the eggs. I don't know if I have any examples down here. Once you open the eggs, it's some kind of a weird plastic item. Looks like, out of a Happy Meal or something. But I don't think it's about the look. I think it's about something more. But I'm not in this project. I traded for this project as it was moving down. It got down here. I traded. And I had a little bit of the project. I had like 4 different projects I traded something for. And I ended up, selling it on this little tiny move up here. Really nothing, but that's when I ended up getting out. But anyway, people were hyped because they were eggs and they wanted to see what happened when they hatched. Well, over here is hatching happened close to the top of this move. So the first egg hatched. And as it moved up, the first egg hatched, and they're like, man, this is ugly. The egg, because the egg was beautiful. The Fun Plastic, the community was not happy. The community was not happy with it and really just sold the project off. So right here, you can see minimum sell price at 325. The average sell price at the top here is 1419 ADA. And then it just dropped. Minimum sell price of 320, average at 336. 1 day later, this was March 13th, this is March 14th. Huge difference. And then it started moving down even more. And then it bounced and it moved down even more. And then it had a little bounce and moved down a little more. And now it's kind of basing really low, and it's still moving lower. So that's an example on the flip side, a project that has a lot of hype, a lot of people were into it, and then something happens. And this was actually the egg hatching into something that the community was unhappy with. It can also be a change in the roadmap. Maybe one of the devs leaves and the replacement's terrible, or they don't get replaced. It can be a lot of different things that causes this. But I just wanted to show, that is the flip side that I was talking about. Whereas, Clay Nation, you had a bounce, a move down, and this is basically the same way Ape Society is. It went up right after it minted, it came down, and then it started to base. And it didn't have a strong catalyst like this. Snoop Dogg's I think is the largest name in crypto right now. Definitely in Cardano. But that is what you can look at. So just to recap, you want to keep an eye on the biggest gainers and what's trending. You also, the amount that you're paying is relative to the actual project itself, right? So if you're buying Clay Nation, you're going to expect to pay quite a bit for it. It went down to, it looks like 875 over here. 1100 was the lowest over here, and I think that was probably a snipe in the night or something. So about 1200. But now that it's moved up, I think 2000, 2500 is going to be it. I don't think it's going to hit 2000, but that's again my speculation. And like the Ape Society, whenever it was moving up, you had 300-400 over here, but if you bought at 500, I mean, that's still not a bad deal. And then you can see where it is now. You're having 1879, that's a Craftsman, but these guys are a little bit over the floor, but you're not looking too bad. 1879 floor, that's where the Craftsmen are at. Fun Plastic just fell out of bed. That wasn't very good. OG Bears is I can look at as well because it is also trending. Biggest gainers of the last 24 hours. You can see that it minted over here, and you were able to pick them up for 8, 9, 10 ADA a piece. And then they started to rise, and now it's getting a very choppy basing area. So they could potentially come down a little more, but it could also, start to move up from here. So it's a little bit of a choppy movement. I'm not in OG Bears, so I can't really talk to you about the project. I know some people that like it, and that's fine. You don't, my perspective, I don't have to be in every single project ever. I just need to be in the ones that I like. And the way that I do my portfolio is I am in a blue chip project, Clay Nation, and then I'm in a few other projects that I like that I wouldn't call blue chips, but they have the potential to be blue chips. And that's what I like to do. I don't speculate at the floor. I look for a good project with a good community with some good leaders that I like, leaders that I think have potential, that are good people. And I think that's what it's about. Like Filthy Rich Horses, for example. I'm in that one. One guy got scammed in a different Discord for I want to say goat tribe, goat society, whatever it's called. Goat tribe, I think it was. Well, he got scammed, which was terrible. Well, the founder of Filthy Rich Horses told him, well, give me your address. I'm going to send you a couple horses. He didn't have to do that, but that's huge. For somebody to do something like that, I thought that was really huge. I already believed in the guy. I believed in the team. I believe in the project. But that just gives me more belief. So situations like that is what I look for in a good community. That particular situation isn't going to happen every day, but stuff like that. You know what I'm talking about. So that's what I like to do. I like to get into one or two large blue chip projects that I like. Ape Society, Clay Nation. That's all I need. And also I wanted to talk about what actually makes a blue chip. A blue chip is a project that has a phenomenal community. It trades really well, has some really good whales. Because it's good to have wallet distribution, and we look at that, I look at that, other people look at that. But also the amount being held in wallets. Are the whales happy about the project? Do they get excited? Do they get on and talk to people? Are they nice people? Are they not? Stuff like that is going to kind of give you a clue. And then the devs, and then the community. And the community is everyone. So that's kind of some stuff that I look at. Hopefully that answered some questions, because I do get some questions about that. What do I look for in a project? Because certain areas I do share what I do in the CNFT market, and usually the videos that I do, I'll show, like, if I have part of the project, which usually I do. So hopefully that answered some questions. If you have any more, you can always leave them in the comment section below. You can also hit me up on Twitter. I usually put my Twitter in every single video. So sorry for the long video, but hopefully it did answer a lot and give you some good information. That's really the goal. So with that, thanks for watching. Hit a like on the video if you like it, dislike if you don't. Comment section if you have any questions, comment, feedback, suggestions, anything. With that, I'll see you around the crypto markets. Have an awesome day.